She worked in a library that most people didn't even know existed. It was hidden between two old government buildings, quiet, forgotten, the kind of place where dust settled gently and time moved slower than the outside world. The shelves were tall and wooden, their edges worn smooth by decades of fingers searching for stories. The air always smelled like old paper and rain, even on sunny days. Her name was Ayla. Every morning, she unlocked the heavy glass door at exactly 9 o'clock, switched on the dim yellow lights, and arranged returned books with the same careful hands. Her life was simple, almost invisible, just like the library. She liked it that way. Silence didn't scare her. It comforted her. She had learned early that loud lives often hid empty hearts. Most visitors came and went without leaving a memory. Students cramming for exams. Old men reading newspapers. Occasionally, someone lost, asking for directions and leaving within minutes. But then, there was him. He appeared one rainy afternoon, carrying nothing but a book already in his hand. No umbrella. No rush. He paused at the entrance as if stepping into another world, gently shaking rain from his coat before walking inside. Ayla noticed him immediately, not because he was handsome in an obvious way, but because he moved differently. Calm, observant, like someone who had learned patience the hard way. He chose a seat near the window, placed his book down, and simply sat there for a moment, watching the rain hit the glass. He didn't speak that day. He just read, and left quietly. The next day, he came again. Same time, same seat. Then the next day, and the next. Always alone, always reading, sometimes for hours. Ayla began to recognize the rhythm of his presence. The way he turned pages slowly, thoughtfully. The way he marked passages with a small pencil instead of folding corners. The way he returned books in perfect condition, as if they were borrowed from a friend rather than a public shelf. One evening, just before closing, he approached the counter. "Do you have anything philosophical?" he asked softly. His voice was calm, controlled, but tired. Ayla looked up, surprised. She realized she had never really seen his eyes before. They were dark, thoughtful, carrying a weight she couldn't name. "Yes," she said. "What kind?" He smiled faintly. "The kind that makes you question your life, but doesn't break you." She hesitated for a second, then walked toward a back shelf few people ever visited. She pulled out an old, slightly worn book and handed it to him. "This one," she said. "But it's dangerous." He raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous? It makes you uncomfortable with who you are," she replied. "And sometimes, with who you're pretending to be." He studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. "That sounds like exactly what I need." From that day on, they started talking. Not much at first. Just small conversations. Book recommendations. Silent smiles. Shared understanding. He never told her his name. She never asked. Weeks passed. Rain turned into winter. Winter into soft spring mornings. Their conversations grew longer. Deeper. They talked about life, purpose, failure, loneliness. He listened more than he spoke, but when he did, his words carried quiet intelligence. He talked about living simply, about avoiding attention, about how the world respected noise more than substance. Ayla shared her dreams, small ones. Opening a reading cafe someday. Traveling somewhere quiet. Living a life that felt meaningful, not impressive. One evening, she asked him, "What do you do?" He paused. "I read," he said. She smiled. "No, I mean, for a living." He thought for a moment, then replied, "I solve problems." That was all. She didn't push further. There was something fragile about the way he guarded his life, and she respected it. But slowly, she began noticing things that didn't add up. His clothes were simple, but expensive in a way only people with money recognized. His watch was old, but clearly custom-made. Sometimes, he would receive calls he never answered, silencing his phone instantly, his expression darkening for a second before returning to calm. Once, she saw him reading a financial report, disguised inside a book cover. She didn't mention it. Instead, she asked, "Why do you come here every day?" He looked around the quiet library, then at her. "Because here," he said, "I'm invisible. And sometimes, invisibility is freedom." That answer stayed with her. One night, as they walked out together for the first time, the city lights flickered on. Cars passed. People rushed. He stopped suddenly and looked at her. "Can I ask you something?" He said. "Yes. Do you believe people can truly escape who they are?" Ayla thought carefully. "I think," she said, "people don't escape who they are. They escape who the world expects them to be." He smiled. A real smile this time. That night, when Ayla returned home, she realized something scared her. She was falling for a man she knew almost nothing about. And somehow, that made him even more real. What she didn't know was this. The quiet man who read books in a forgotten library was carrying a secret powerful enough to shatter the silence of her world forever. And when that truth came out, nothing would ever be simple again. The library slowly stopped feeling like a workplace to Ayla. It began to feel like a shared secret. Every morning, when she unlocked the door, there was a quiet hope in her chest, not loud enough to scare her, but strong enough to stay. Some days he arrived early, already seated near the window. Other days he came late, his eyes heavier, his silence deeper. She started noticing the smallest details. The way his jaw tightened when he read news headlines. The way his fingers paused mid-page when his phone vibrated. The way he never talked about family, never mentioned friends. Yet, when he talked about ideas, about technology, about how the world was changing faster than people were ready for, his words carried authority. Not arrogance. Certainty. One afternoon, while organizing returns, Ayla overheard him speaking on the phone outside. "No," he said quietly, but firmly. "I told you I'm not coming." A pause. "Because I don't want cameras in my face. Handle it without me." Another pause. "I don't care how important it is." He ended the call and stood still for a moment, his hand resting on the phone like it weighed too much. When he came back inside, Ayla pretended not to notice. But the air between them had changed. "You okay?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Just noise trying to reach me." "Noise?" She smiled gently. "You know you're in a library, right?" He chuckled. "A rare, warm sound. That's exactly why I'm here." Their walks after closing became routine. They'd walk slowly, sometimes in silence, sometimes talking about nothing and everything. He listened to her stories about childhood, about how books became her escape when life felt too loud. She listened to his thoughts about pressure, expectations, and how success often came with invisible chains. One night, she finally asked, "Do you ever feel lonely?" He stopped walking. The city buzzed around them, unaware. "Yes," he said honestly. "Even when I'm surrounded by people." That answer hurt more than she expected. "Why?" she asked. "Because most people don't see you," he said. "They see what you represent." She frowned. "Like what?" He looked at her, then looked away. "That's a story for another day." Days later, something unexpected happened. A man in a suit walked into the library. Not the usual kind, this one looked sharp, alert, scanning the room like he didn't belong. He approached Ayla at the desk. "I'm looking for someone," he said. "Can I help you find a book?" She asked. "No," the man replied. "I'm looking for him." He glanced toward the window. Ayla followed his gaze. Her heart skipped. The quiet reader sat there, unaware, completely absorbed in his book. The suited man sighed. Of course. Before Ayla could say anything, the man walked toward him. "Sir," he said respectfully, lowering his voice. "We need you." The reader didn't even look up. "I told you," he said calmly, "I'm not available. This can't wait." It always waits. People began to stare. Ayla felt tension rise like static in the air. The suited man leaned closer. "The board is asking questions." That made him finally look up. His eyes hardened, not angry, but cold. Tell the board, he said quietly, that I don't answer to fear. The suited man hesitated, then nodded slightly and left without another word. Silence returned. Ayla stood frozen behind the desk, her mind racing. When he approached her later to return a book, she couldn't pretend anymore. Who was that? She asked. He studied her face, realizing there was no avoiding it now. Someone from a life I try not to live here, he said. What kind of life? She asked carefully. A complicated one. That night, she couldn't sleep. Questions filled her mind. Bored. Unavailable. People needing him. He wasn't just a simple man who read books. And for the first time, that scared her. The next day, he didn't come. Nor the day after. The library felt emptier than ever. On the third day, she found an envelope on the counter when she arrived in the morning. No name. Just her handwriting, but neater. Inside was a note. I'm sorry for disappearing. Some doors opened that I had locked for a reason. If you still want to talk, I'll be there tonight. Same place. Her heart pounded. That evening, she waited outside the library. He arrived late, wearing the same simple coat, but something about him felt distant, like he was already half gone. I didn't want you dragged into my chaos, he said. You didn't drag me, she replied. You disappeared. He nodded. That's my flaw. They sat on a bench nearby. I live two lives, he confessed. One that the world sees, and one I try to protect. Why protect it? She asked. Because the world doesn't touch what it can't see. She looked at him and realized something painful. She was standing between those two lives. I don't need to know everything, she said softly. But I need honesty. He met her eyes. Then be patient with me, he said. Because the truth changes how people look at me. She swallowed. I already see you. For a moment, he looked like he might break. Instead, he stood up. Soon, he said. I promise. As he walked away, Ayla felt a strange certainty. The man she was falling for was standing at the edge of a truth too big for their quiet world. And when it finally came out, it would either destroy what they had, or prove that love could exist even in the shadow of power. The truth didn't arrive gently. It arrived on every screen in the city. Ayla was arranging books when the first notification buzzed on her phone. Then another. Then another. She ignored them at first. Libraries taught you discipline, how to protect silence. But the murmurs around her grew louder. Two students whispered urgently. An old man stared at his phone, shaking his head. Finally, she looked. The headline froze her breath. Reclusive tech CEO makes rare public appearance after months of absence. Below it was a photograph. Not sharp, not staged, but unmistakable. Him, the quiet man from the library. The one who read philosophy by the window. The one who walked beside her in silence. The one who said he solved problems. His real name was everywhere now. Founder and CEO of one of the most powerful tech companies in the country. A company that shaped data, influence, futures. A man known for avoiding cameras, interviews, public events. And yet there he was, standing on a stage, surrounded by flashing lights, investors, board members. His posture straight, his face controlled. But Ayla saw what the world didn't. She saw the man who hated noise. Her hands trembled. So this was the truth that changed how people looked at him. The library felt too small, too fragile to hold her emotions. She closed early that day, her mind spinning with memories. Every pause, every vague answer, every guarded silence suddenly made sense. He hadn't lied, but he hadn't told the truth either. That night, she didn't wait. She went to the address mentioned in the article, a corporate tower glowing like a monument to ambition. Security everywhere. Suits. Glass. Power. She almost turned back. This wasn't her world. But then she remembered the man who once said invisibility was freedom. At the front desk, she said his name quietly. The receptionist looked surprised, then respectful. Please wait, she said. That was when Ayla understood. You didn't wait to see him. You waited to be allowed. Minutes later, she was escorted to the top floor. The doors opened into silence more expensive than anything she had known. He stood by a wide window overlooking the city, the same city he once hid from in a forgotten library. When he turned, his face softened instantly. "You saw," he said. She nodded. For a moment, neither spoke. Then the words finally broke free. "You let me believe you were just simple," she said. "Ordinary. I am simple," he replied. "I just happen to carry something complicated. You let me fall for a version of you that didn't include the truth," she said, her voice shaking. He walked closer. "I let you fall for me. That's not fair," she said. "You chose when to disappear. You chose what to hide. I didn't get that choice." Pain flickered across his face. "I was trying to protect what we had." "No," she said quietly. "You were protecting yourself." Silence stretched between them. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the small heartbreak unfolding above it. "I didn't want you to see me like this," he said. "In this world, everything is transactional. People don't listen, they calculate. With you, I could breathe." She laughed bitterly. "So I was your escape." "No," he said firmly. "You were my anchor." Tears filled her eyes. "Then why does it feel like I was living in a lie?" He had no answer. Days passed. The media exploded with theories. Analysts discussed his rare appearance. Interviews were requested. Stories were written. But the library stayed silent. Ayla returned to her routine, but something inside her had changed. Every book felt heavier. Every quiet moment echoed with his absence. He came once. Stood outside. Didn't enter. She saw him through the glass. For the first time, she didn't go to him. Weeks later, a letter arrived at the library. Not typed. Handwritten. "I never wanted power. I wanted control over my life, and lost it anyway. With you, I was seen as a man, not a title. If I disappear again, know that it's not because I don't care. It's because caring for you made me human again, and that terrifies me." She folded the letter carefully and placed it inside the first book she had ever recommended to him. Months passed. The library received funding, anonymous. Renovations began. New books arrived. A reading cafe opened in the corner. Ayla smiled when she saw it. One evening, as the sun dipped low, a familiar figure walked in. No cameras. No suit. Just a man and a book. He looked at her, uncertain. She held his gaze. This time, she spoke first. "So," she said softly, "what are you reading these days?" He smiled, the same quiet smile that started it all. "Still trying to understand life," he said. "Care to help." The world would always see him as a CEO. But in that library, he was just a man who loved books. And that, she realized, was enough.